Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the B-Leaguers podcast. I don't know what fucking episode this is. I don't really care. It's Wednesday, I guess. Yeah, it's Wednesday morning. It's me and Stokes, and we have a special guest this evening, the head coach of Evil Geniuses Gotcha. Thank you for doing this at an ungodly hour when everyone should be sleeping, but you're on the West Coast, so you have the advantage of living in a fairy tale time zone. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Anytime. So, I guess we can just jump right into it. You guys had a fun fucking game against Rogue on
Yeah.
on what was it, Monday? It was the second game of the weekend. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the
Second half
most
of the
fun that
back to
we've had
back.
in a while.
I mean, shit, y'all motherfuckers turned up right after after that ruling. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen you guys play Border in a while, and it was
Yeah.
impressive to see just how fucking dominant everyone was on the map. Everyone was rolling. Everyone was getting involved, and that's kind of what I've been saying is needed for the team. The entirety of the team is a team that relies on each and every one of each other. Like one person starts to go down, like everyone starts to come down. But
Right.
hey, three play days in, you guys are fucking rolling, and everyone's rocking on all cylinders. I mean, you guys are
hmm
taking down SSG and Rogue in your first three play days.
Right.
How's everybody feeling after that fucking crazy start?
Well, obviously everyone's really happy about it, right? We have a tremendous amount of talent on our team. It just needs to be utilized in the best way possible. And like what you said, we're just firing on all cylinders at this point. We feel like we have everybody in exactly the role that they're supposed to be in. We have a ton of flexibility in terms of who can play different operators and different types of attack styles and defenses. Um, Everything is just going really, really well for us and really according to plan. Obviously, yesterday against Rogue, after that admin ruling, I said it in a tweet that it basically gave us rocket fuel to want to beat Rogue as badly as we did, and the team showed up. So I think we could have even made the scoreline 7-1 or so. And one of the rounds, Geo's team speak actually stopped working mid round, and it was like a 3v2 or something of that sort. And we got lost in comms. So honestly, it should have been even better than what it was, in my opinion.
You had the technical 7-3 is what's written down, but Rogue got given around because of the DC. And like I
Right.
said right before we started recording, and I told Stokes this as well, I think yesterday. I kind of feel somewhat responsible for this because I got in a Twitter shitstorm and a Reddit shitstorm on
Right.
Sunday after tweeting out the rule that says that after 15 seconds of prep, you can't rehost for a disconnect. You can rehost for
Right.
other shit, 30 seconds in, no damage, yada yada yada.
Right.
Disconnects are the only rule that have their own exception. I think that's where a
Right.
lot of the confusion comes from, and I get fucking triggered. I get my blood boils when people misquote that rule all the time because I've heard every possible conceivable ideology of that rule ever. It's a minute in. If you get one kill, you can still rehost. Nah, it's okay if they drone the whole fucking site. No. It's a minute 30. It's halfway through the round. Nah, it's
Right.
soon as prep phase. I've heard every fucking combination of any time and number of operators dead on the face of the goddamn earth, and it pissed
Right.
me off. So I brought it up after the Dark Zero game because I thought, hey, that's kind of bullshit that they got a rehost when they shouldn't have. And all of a sudden, in back-to-back days, we have you guys getting penalized one round.
Right.
And then today, FaZe against Liquid, FaZe as a whole team, their house lost power 3 times in their match. And they got
Right.
the auto DQ 7-0 loss because of it.
Right. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
I
It's
think,
definitely been a rough one on the admins. I'm just gonna show a little bit of
yeah,
presence because I haven't even
yeah.
talked yet. I want people to know I'm at least
I was
here. I'm
gonna
not dead.
say
I promise.
you're
I
not
promise.
important, you stupid idiot. Jesus.
Well. By the way, hi, Gotcha. Welcome to the podcast, buddy. I hope
Thank
you
you.
enjoy your stay with us for this little bit of stint of time.
Yeah, I'm
So
already having a blast.
that's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, you know what, Flynn? You seem pretty level headed about the whole situation with these
Oh
admins,
yeah.
man.
Well,
Yeah,
see, I
you
don't.
seem very ecstatic.
So here's the thing. I don't have anything against the admins. I don't have anything against any individual group of admins who called one way and then a different group of admins called a different way. I have a problem with the whole fucking structure. I have a problem with how a rule that is written fucking down in a rule book can somehow be called two different ways in the span of 24 hours.
Well, okay, look, this is my only argument for this thing. We'll go back to traditional sports because I know, Flynn, you and I like to reference things from that podcast. We'll go for something like if you guys enjoy American football, pass interference. Okay,
Oh,
pass
I knew you were gonna bring
has
this.
pass interference gets called every which way, and it's either the guy's completely being throttled by the other human being that's currently defending him, or you can barely touch the man's jersey and it gets called. That is a difference in officiating, and that is now showing inside of esports and specifically ours. So the one thing is about this is that it's literally written in black and white on what this call is supposed to be, and
There you
it's
go.
just not being followed to what it should. And that might just be from an educational standpoint on the side of, okay, maybe we do just need to educate people that have the power a little bit more on what is supposed to be going on. Or maybe it is just, okay, we know this is supposed to be called, let us go back and reference the book real quick to realize what we're supposed to do in this situation. And I feel like that is just a little bit of lack of communication from whether it be ESL as a league or the admins, or just overall. I think there just needs to be a little bit more time taken to figure out what they're supposed to do instead of just making these quick calls, and it's just punishing players as well as viewers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the problem was a precedent was set that, hey, even outside of the rule book, if someone disconnects like within a reasonable amount of time, a little bit either before prep phase is over or slightly after prep phase is done with, then you can get a rehost. And that was the precedent that was certainly set in literally just a day before that match with DZ and Rogue. And then even at USN, like a full minute into the actual round itself, someone had disconnected from Rogue when we were playing them on Clubhouse in our first map against them, and they had decided to rehost and not count that as a disconnect. So the precedent was, hey, if someone disconnects and if it's reasonable, then let's go ahead and rehost. And then now people are, changing it up and saying, no, it's the other way around. Now we're just going to enforce the rules. And it just seems, I mean, at the time, obviously it seemed very biased and unfair. But yeah, I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah, my problem with the rule in general is that disconnects are the most common reasons for a rehost. Why is it the most strict rule out of all of them? You can go, I have the tweet, it's up on my profile, and it got taken and put on Reddit, and I got put on blast and shit, but there's like 5 different scenarios, and 4 of the 5 all say 30 seconds into action phase, nobody's killed each other, no damage taken, fine, we'll rehost. But it's all for like, you can't shoot or you can't reload. Okay, those things happen. Could you also not discover those things in prep phase?
Right.
I don't know. Or here's another idea, just make all the fucking rules the same. So if someone disconnects 30 seconds into action phase with no damage taken, oh look, we can rehost. Like why does the most common form of needing a rehost have to then have the strictest rule, and why is it an outlier? Why is it the one thing that gets 15 seconds into prep phase, but everything else gets 30 seconds into action phase? This isn't an old rulebook. The thing I screenshotted was December 2018. That's 20 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is brand fucking new. Yes, they carry things over and they don't rewrite the whole thing over and over again. They did rewrite a lot of the sections, though, because of the new format and the new operators being put under the surveillance rule or whatever, the quarantine, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Why does this still exist is just my question. And can we get some consistency on all the calls? It would just be nice.
Right.
Well, this is what happens when you leave things like this open to interpretation, especially with what you were saying, Flynn, with this rule being the outlier of all the other rehost rules. I mean, it's the only one that it's only 15 seconds into the prep phase, and that's what really sets it apart from the rest. And that is what leaves it open to interpretation, because admins are like, okay, well, we have these other ones that are set up like this, and this one is the only one that's really different. So, I mean, I guess we can kind of be lenient with it. And then that's when things like this happen, where you have such a variance in calls. And that's when everyone goes up in arms, especially with, as much as everyone wants to try and fault Troy. I understand the anger behind it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it happens, and it's not pleasant when it happens to you. It's the same as every other sport or esport. I mean, when calls like that happen, there it isn't just a set in stone thing, and people want to try and have this variance on it. It's just not healthy at all. So, granted, I understand the point from ESL or whoever saying that, okay, yeah, maybe Troy did get a little bit too angry. But I mean, if it happened to you, then you would understand. And I definitely understand coming from a background of contacting admins and being like, oh, well, no, you can't rehost because of this. Or the next admin says, oh, yeah, well, you can. There has to be some sort of consistency inside of that.
Right. No, I agree absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I love Troy. Consider him a friend. He kind of crossed the line on the interview, I'd say. I think that's a fair assessment. I think even he started to realize it towards the end of the fucking interview, where he's like, I would apologize, but I'm going to be a fucking dick about it. And I'm like, Troy, and you can see Parker's reaction. I love the clip of Parker's reaction to it all, because he's like, Jesus.
When Parker just like looked to the ceiling and he's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
For me, the most awkward part was when the interview with Troy ended, and it was just Kixon and Taro.
They just stared at each other.
And Taro was just staring at Kix, hoping to change the subject, if anything, is what it looked like. And it was just, yeah. I mean, obviously, like as you said, Troy already did apologize that, what he said, especially in game, wasn't appropriate. I mean, anybody with half a brain knows that Troy isn't like that normally.
No.
And Troy's, the utmost of a professional.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was a heated match, and it was a very heated decision that was made by the ESL admins, and it caused Troy to say what he wanted to say. And honestly, if anything, I feel like it brings a little bit more, not necessarily drama, but more excitement, certainly, when it comes to watching teams battle it out, when you know that there's some sort of history, when you know that there's some sort of drama in between the teams as well. So, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Had a flash of Gears of War there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of past examples of a bunch of other dumb shit that I won't get into about drama between players and stuff. And I agree with you. It does add a little bit more to the storyline. Obviously, we're casters. We have to play off storylines and stuff and try and make it into as much of an accuracy thing as an entertainment thing.
Right.
So that adds fuel to it. The hard part is we also have to work for the company that made the call, and we have to then protect the people who made the call, because we work for them sometimes. And
right.
I think the whole topic is fair debate. We did get clarification on that. It's fair debate. We're not mentioning names. We're not going that far. But I don't know. I think there needs to be an update to the rule book at the very least, and then.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be clearly communicated to all the teams. Like, why did, the other day, why did DZ and Rogue, why did DZ get that rehost when it was clearly after the time, after the rules? Why did Rogue get that rehost at USN? Like, what's going on, right? And if we're going to count exceptions, like, let us know what's happening within those exceptions, right? One of the issues that makes this whole situation worse is just the total lack of communication and lack of transparency, right? At the same time, like, rules are rules and you got to enforce them, which is understandable. But if you're going to start making exceptions for everybody, then, you shouldn't get upset when teams start asking for them.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's the whole point about consistency is that every team is treated equally. The amount of shit I saw on Reddit and Twitter last night about ESL playing favorites and shit and talking about like how they're rooting for one team or they hate one team because of such and such bullshit thing that happened 20 fucking years ago. Like,
Right.
no, that doesn't exist. ESL truly does not give a singular fuck about which team it's happening to. I think they're honestly like, I think they're just not communicating with each other about what should be done and what kind of precedent they want to set. Because you're right, there are a lot of examples out there in recent, very recent history in which the
Right.
rule was not called to the rule. Like the judgment was not called according to the rule. So I think what we're seeing now, especially with you guys losing the round, with FaZe getting just dicked by the rule today,
Right.
I think we're seeing all of ESL trying to get on the same page and crack down on it. The
Right.
problem is A, I consider the rule to be bullshit because it's an outlier from all the other rehost rules. Either unify them all to 30 seconds into action or unify them all into 15 into prep. But you can't have these if and or but fucking weird ass exceptions inside one rule set. You got to unify
Right.
those, and then you got to unify the calls. Like you cannot keep doing this shit where
Right.
it's one day it's red, one day it's blue, one day it's green. Like there's got to be consistency across the board so that, like you said, teams don't then go calling saying, "What the fuck? Why are you calling it one way on this team, but not for us? Like, did we piss you off
Right.
or something?" That's where the favoritism, like accusations, come out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was really at the heart of the issue. It's like you're making exceptions for other teams,
Yep.
and you're not communicating why or what's happening at all. And obviously, Troy was very upset about it. The whole team, honestly,
Yeah.
was very upset about it because it was ridiculous from our perspective.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that's totally fair. Like, if I even said it, pretty sure Stokes and I were watching together for this one. Yeah, because
Yeah, we were.
yeah, and I said like if I was in Troy's shoes, I probably would have done the same thing because I would have been fucking heated. Like,
right.
I would have been upset. I don't know if I would have went as far as the interview portion, but I definitely would have been saying some shit in chat in the game. Like,
Yeah.
fuck the penalty points, fuck everything, fuck people yell. Like, I would have been heated. Like like it's fair.
Right.
It's fair that you guys were pissed. It's fair that everyone is throwing their arms up because there needs to be a change. And I think honestly, the more shitstorm we can cause on social media, the better things will be in the end. Because eventually they'll realize, hey, we can't keep doing this. Eventually,
Right.
it's gonna catch up to us.
Yeah, and it's really some of the rules do need to be adjusted and rethought of, to be honest, as well. Like 15 seconds into the round for disconnect, in my opinion, is actually pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have to maintain competitive integrity, right? The rules have to make sense.
Yeah.
And just currently it doesn't, quite frankly. To put the cherry on top, it was funny during the interview that Troy's name wasn't Troy; it was Tristan Ranger as
Yeah.
well, right?
That did not help the favoritism. That did not help
Yeah,
that at all.
yeah, definitely did not. So,
Stokes.
Yeah, wild.
Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to lead in on? I gave you a nice juicy pause there.
I really wanted to leave it just for the awkward pause so everyone thinks that their stereo isn't working correctly.
You're a
Sorry.
fucking
So-
toolbox.
Yeah, I'm a terrible human, but I understand. It's okay. No, but I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, again, it just needs to be consistent. That's really it. I mean, that's what anybody asks for in a rule book of anything.
Yeah.
So consistency is key, and as long as they make it known to the general public of the competitive community on how things work, then stick with it. Even if they're hard set rules, say it gets 2 seconds past and it's 17 seconds in, and you're like, nope, we're past 15. That's fine. You made it known that it's 15 seconds or it's 30 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
right.
Just stick with what you have so that everybody knows, and don't allow this variance in calls, because that is where you get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
I think
I agree.
the game itself also, like 15 seconds into prep, the game isn't stable enough. Come on. We all see the
Right.
bugs. We all see the freezes. We all get them. Like, come the fuck up. You know that's not fair. You know in your heart that is not a fair rule. It's a written
Right.
rule, which means it should be followed, but change the fucking rule, please. And I think that's a good stopping point on our opinions of that whole fucking mess and this whole mess we still live in today, because FaZe and Liquid had to go through that.
Right.
Well, now that the bullshit's out of the way, let's talk about the games. We had 8 games in North America in back-to-back days. We talked about you guys just fucking steamrolled your way through the weekend. 7-1 against EXG, 7-3 against Rogue. Okay. 7-2 against Rogue.
That's right.
Yeah, 7-2. One of the biggest, I think, shocks of the season. Well, there's been a couple actually. I think one of the bigger shocks so far has been Space Station not really living up to at least my own expectations, you can say. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are also feeling maybe that SSG just aren't performing to what we imagine their peak can be. They looked really strong at USN. They looked really strong at Dream Winter. There were a lot of people, on their side. I mean, even Ranger came on the podcast a couple weeks ago and was like, yeah, SSG is for real. And they started at the gate. And they lose to you guys week 1, 7-3. They tie Reciprocity, which is another story I want to get onto, 6-6. And then they tie Dark Zero 6-6. So, I mean, they're hanging with Dark Zero. They get slapped by you guys on Villa. And, I mean, the Reciprocity thing is a wild card to me. Rec is still a question mark to me entirely. But have you seen anything through... Because I know you guys, when you don't have to play each other... So you guys played each other week 1. You guys are going back to being scrim partners, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So... I don't know, not getting too technical because we're not trying to reveal a playbook on anyone, but like, what have you seen maybe through their games, through anything else you've seen from them? Like, what's not working for them right now?
Are you talking about SSG?
Yeah.
So one thing about SSG is that you can get used to how they play pretty easily. Like, they're very structured. Especially their attacks. Like, if you just look at how they attack most maps, they are always pushing together from one side, always holding flanks for each other. No one's really going for plays. No one's really split pushing or anything of that sort. It's their strength, but it's also one of their weaknesses because it makes them really predictable. On defense, you can also really tell how they anchor up and how they roam. They have a very specific way of doing so. And you can exploit that. You can tell that against teams that like to split push a lot, that their defense crumbles. And so the main issue for me with SSG and why I think they're struggling is because they are a little bit predictable, both on attack and defense in terms of what they're going to do. They don't really have a lot of different moving parts going on all at the same time. They have everyone kind of pushing in a general same direction. And, once you realize that, you start countering that as much as you can. And that's exactly what we did on Villa against them. We recognized their play style and we countered it exactly, basically to the T. And we executed really, really well. And I can definitely see why they struggled against Reciprocity. Because Reciprocity is one of those teams where they're split pushing like crazy with minimal droning all over the map, because that's their play style. And so it makes sense why they ended up with the tie with Reciprocity and have struggled this season so far.
Yeah, I think that's fair. From everything I've seen from them, casting them, watching them, analyzing them being my fucking hill to die on about gonna be SSG season, it's gonna be SSG's tournament. I've been over this fucking ad nauseum. I don't know. They're my hill I keep dying on, and it turns out I'm gonna die on that hill this season because we're only 3 matches in. Don't get me wrong; it's still fucking early, but I don't know.
Right.
It's startling to say the least. This is happening so early for. The other thing is Reciprocity, like that. I don't know, man. Like I even gave them when Ranger came on. He asked us for predictions of like our top 4 heading into after the first half of the season. And I gave Reciprocity the 4 seed in my predictions just because I thought they would literally do what they're doing right now, which is out fucking frag everyone.
Right.
And I said right before I said Reciprocity, I'm like, I want to throw a wild card in there. They don't look like a wild card. They actually look like they're moving as a unit, which is weird. I even criticized the roster move dropping Goddess for Skies right before the season started, saying, haven't we done this before? Haven't we tried this with CLG, with Obey, with a full fragging stack? Has this experiment not run dry? Like, what out of Reciprocity? I know you just talked about they're constantly moving and they're very sporadic. Is there anything else really that you're seeing that's like why they are clicking better now with Skies than they were with Goddess?
Yeah, I mean, they have obviously very talented players on that team, and Sky's world champion, and Laxing just is a tremendously good player as well. It seems like, from my perspective, that dropping Goddess didn't have that great of an effect on the team, and if anything, enabled them to play even looser and even more, um, where a lot of people are doing a lot of separate things, yet still working together pretty darn well. And that's what's surprising about Reciprocity, considering like they don't really have anyone on that team that's known for being like a support main or anything of that sort. They're making it work. Granted, the opponents that they have faced so far are not necessarily always on the top of the pro league rankings or anything of the sort. SSG being an exception, of course, but um, you're right in saying that they are an enigma currently. Like we'll have to see how things work out when they face us, when they face DZ, when they face Rogue. I think that more and more teams will catch on to their way of playing and seek to counter it as best as possible. Because their play style is definitely something that's unique to them and not seen very commonly, especially in North American Pro League.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. I can kind of see what you're talking about with more or less that Goddess made them more rigid and the fact that they did have a hard set support on their team. And I mean, the real argument that I had with the whole situation right there, with that is that Retro really isn't that far off from how Goddess plays. You know what I mean? Like he does play the more supportive role on that team, and he still plays that. But the thing that I had a gripe with, and this obviously this isn't like I don't, there's no hate between me and anybody on Reciprocity or any of the players inside of Pro League. I love all of them. All of them deserve their spot. They're all great players. Okay, but my main thing with the roster move is that I was very surprised that they didn't drop Retro in place of Skies instead of Goddess, because Goddess, as everyone knows, is the person that was more or less making the calls as well as just setting things up for offense and defense for adjustments and everything else. So she was more or less the team captain of the whole team, and they decided to push her off, keep Retro, pick up Skies, and then make Mark the team captain. And they move Mark over to more of a supportive role. Now, I feel like Mark, with the maps that we've played so far and watched them, he plays more of a supportive role, kind of like Slashug does, where he is a little bit more aggressive on his plays, which is great because Mark definitely thrives in that kind of environment. But until they're actually tested, I don't know how this roster is going to fare.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you entirely. Right now they have a lot of wind in their sails, and that's fantastic. And I'm glad that they're having the success that they're having. But they need to be put to the test against you know more veteran players and more veteran teams, and we'll see how they do.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing. We got asked a question directly, tweeted at us, and asked basically like, is Reciprocity, and I'm paraphrasing here, but are they smoke and mirrors or are they the real deal? And I think both of you are on point here, where it's we literally don't know. There's still a question mark, like I said, because that the 6-6 draw against SSG, in that specific game, I saw a lot of rounds where it was SSG making the failing move more than Reciprocity making the winning move. It was a lot of blown situations for SSG, and I mean, you can say the same thing about the Dark Zero game against SSG yesterday as well, where it's SSG just throwing bodies at guns for no fucking reason. I still can't figure out what's wrong with them, but as far
Yeah.
as getting out of that like predictive nature, like you talked about, but reciprocity for me. Their next match is against Rogue, and then the very next day is against Orgulus. So I feel like even if they don't have the greatest game against Rogue, who also,
Mhm.
granted, they may have got fucked by the rules on week 2 against Dark Zero, they have also not started as hot as both Stokes and I predicted they would. I actually gave you guys the slow start. I don't remember if I put you guys the 3 or the 5 seed heading into
Mhm.
um, just based off of last season and a couple other seasons prior. I know obviously you weren't with the team up until like what, right after Montreal, a couple weeks after that.
Right. So I joined the team in mid-October.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
October 12th. October
Mhm.
12th.
Oh, so that
Wikipedia, babe.
was right after I got back from Italy.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought you guys were gonna start a little bit slower, especially with your first 3 games being 2 of them against SSG and then Rogue. I thought you guys were gonna be tested a lot heavier than you guys have been so far. It feels like you guys are just fucking far and away, once again, the number 1 team in North America. And
Right.
I mean, that's DG. It's number 1 NA, right? Like Troy even said it on
Right.
the broadcast. Like, you guys all do believe you guys are the best team in North America, and there's not a lot of evidence right now to contradict that. Especially given your rest of schedule now looks so fucking soft. Like this is you got one more game against Dark Zero who looked pretty fucking good as well, but after that it's looking like it's going to be a landslide. And man, do I
Right.
feel stupid for even doubting it. I don't know. I just felt like you guys were going to start a little bit slower.
Yeah. Um, I mean, we have trained and prepped super, super hard for this Pro League season. In our mind, it's not like we were necessarily outplayed or out strategized or anything like that at Rio, where we had a really bad showing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, even though I was in Rio, I couldn't even stand behind the boys nor call timeouts, which I would have called plenty of
Yeah.
if given the opportunity. And then at USN, I was a player, and I literally had one map under my belt to be able to coach these guys. So after going to 2 lands, have never stepped in as an official coach for Evil Geniuses. That being said, now with the start of the new Pro League season and everyone playing their roles and us just running our strats as we've been practicing and doing our thing, um, honestly we're unstoppable. And other teams should be afraid of us because we have so much more up our sleeve that they haven't even seen yet. One big thing that EG has been lacking for the longest time was a coach that could develop new strategies and counter strategies and do a lot of VOD review of the enemy team as well. And if you notice what happened between EG and G2, even at the Paris major, it was just a complete blowout. It
Yeah.
didn't seem like EG was prepared at all, and that's actually exactly the case. Um, Obviously, G2 has a fantastic coaching staff. They have both Farrell and Shaz and just a lot of great support around them to enable those players to do what they do. And that's what has kept them as the team to beat for quite a while. And quite honestly, now I think we've caught up and we're there. And at Invitational, you will see a really great showing from us, and we're expected to win it. And that's the mentality that we have. So when Troy said at the end of the interview with Rogue, we're 10 times better than these guys, that's honestly how we feel. Um, and we have just so much tremendous talent on the team currently, and just even watching Amar and Young just frag out on support roles and just play such a pivotal role in getting us round wins has just been amazing to see, and just everyone is doing a tremendous job currently.
It's honestly a great sight to see. I mean, Flynn and I talked a lot before the Pro League started back up right after USN, and the main premise there was basically saying before we actually started the podcast, I was like, look, I kind of want to give our early on predictions of what's going to happen because that's really what Ranger wanted to talk about. He wanted to talk about the season and how he thought everything was going to go. So Flynn and I kind of had to get a general grasp of what we thought. And especially because I have to pay a lot more attention now than I used to. I used to be like, yeah, people are doing good. I really didn't have to, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, shit. Like, I actually have to make educated decisions, educated guesses, per se, on what's going to happen. And I remember actually, we were actually up at the bar at Rio, and it was actually us three talking. I remember I asked you a question, gotcha, and I don't know if you remember this, but I asked you a question. I said, "Do you guys think that you would have won USN if you had a not gotcha, obviously.
Yeah.
If you had Geo here, thank you. I couldn't remember his name there for a second. If you had Geo there with you, and without hesitation, you were like, absolutely. I was like, okay, well, what sets the difference? Like, what sets the precedent when Geo's there? And you said Geo literally changes up absolutely everything. You're like, I'm good at the game, but I'm not Geo. Like, Geo can literally change around just by being there. And
Right.
you know, and after that conversation, and we had that I had that talk with Flynn. We ended up doing that podcast with Ranger, and Ranger asked, he was like, "Who do you think is going to be the top teams going into the midpoint of this pro league season?" And Flynn did his entire list, and he as you know, Flynn is a massive Evil Geniuses fan, and Flynn puts you guys outside of the top four. And I didn't argue with that just because of the past seasons where Evil Geniuses has started off slow, then built up steam, ended up finishing top of Pro League, as you do. That's usually what Evil Geniuses does.
Yeah.
Right.
But I ended up putting you guys at the top because of that conversation with you, because I knew, especially from casting you inside of Challenger League and just everything you said on Twitter, as well as following your career just within the most recent year, that when you say something and you believe in it, you're 9 times out of 10 correct. And I more or less just put my stock in you and was like, okay, if Aaron says it's going to happen, then it's probably going to happen. So I put you guys at the top and was like, you know what? I'm going to let the birds fly, and we'll see, where they're going to rest. And so far, I've been correct. Evil Geniuses, top of the leaderboard, and they're running with it. You guys have looked fantastic ever since. Even with that game that you had to play in because poor Geo was sick with food poisoning.
Right.
You guys still look great. And I feel like you guys are going to be able to stay consistent, and I am so excited to see you guys at Invitational.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, talking about USN just very briefly, like, again, coming into LAN, literally having one map to scrim before I was put in to play full matches against Orglis, against C9 and Rogue, and considering how close it was that it went to a third map. Obviously, we didn't do well on that third map, but even just how close it was on Clubhouse as well as Villa, teams should be afraid of just how much potential we have. Like, not practicing with your fifth, and coming into a LAN tournament with pretty much every other North American Pro League team and doing that well with almost no practice when other teams are practicing the entire time and even boot camping says something about the potential of this team. So, all that being said, we're absolutely excited for the rest of the Pro League season, and Invitational is going to be an exciting and awesome event for us as well.
Do we get to get drunk at a bar again? 'Cause I'm down with that.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please. I definitely need to repeat that and remember it this time and not be an idiot. I guess changing gears a little bit. Not really, but kind of. Anyway, so you were with Disrupt, obviously the team we were just flipping back and forth through. For anyone who's unaware of what's going on, the North American Invitational closed playoffs for the qualifiers are happening right now. There's been a bunch of games going on all at once. It's been a mess to try and follow all the streams and stuff. But you're with DG. You're on the team, and you're about, 4 games, so it would have been 2 weeks out from the playoffs. And this kind of offer comes around. And I've always known you to be, like you said, a very capable player. You've kicked my ass plenty of fucking times up and down the road. What was it for you that really wanted to shift from the player aspect to a coaching role? We've seen it quite a lot with a bunch of different players. I mean, BC, Bacon, LB, Barrel. I'm probably missing a bunch along the way. Lycan. There's been a lot of players turned coaches, but most of those names I just listed were were in Pro League for a few seasons, most of them very early on, and then kind of took a back seat. You were with DG on the precipice of being the number 2 seed heading into the CL playoffs with a real shot at making it to Pro League as a player. What was that one tipping point that said, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to coach EG?
Yeah. Well, obviously my plan this whole time was to make sure that Gio couldn't play so that I can play at LANs
There you
and
go.
in PL games. I mean, ever since becoming a coach, I've played more PL than ever before. So that was really
There you
my
go.
master plan this entire time. But in all seriousness, I knew that when you think of EG,
Yeah.
I consistently thought of the second best team in the world. And honestly, I feel like Invitational was taken away from them, and they could have won it out. But all that being said, it was just a tremendous opportunity that I couldn't pass up on, to coach one of the best teams in the world, really. And I figured, if I ever wanted to go back to being a player, I could do that. And I didn't think it'd be so soon with USN and even like this most recent Pro League
Yeah.
match. But I thought I had a lot to offer EG as well. As team captain in IGL and strat maker and counter stratter for DG, I basically did absolutely everything to make sure that my team could succeed at the highest level. And you're right, we were pretty much right there. And I think if I had stayed with the team, we honestly would have probably made Pro League. But there's a difference between starting at the bottom as a bottom tier Pro League team that has just came in from Challenger League and being on a team that's arguably the best in the world next to G2. And so that trade-off there and that opportunity there was kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. And so far everything's worked out pretty darn well, I think. And uh, the relationship between me and the boys has just been fantastic, and I think the results are starting to speak for themselves as well.
So actually, I just kind of got an update. I actually DM'd one of the pro players that was watching the SSG game, and we actually just had another rule thing happen, guys. So SSG just got a free dub because basically there was one disconnect, then they had another disconnect, and it basically gave SSG a free round because of the disconnect. So
Wow.
the SSG just won an entire map off of that.
And that's against Orgulus right now, right?
Yeah.
Well, SSG took the first map, so they just won then, didn't they?
Yeah.
Was it a close scoreline? I haven't been watching that game.
SSG Orgulus, the first map on Club went to almost overtime. I think it might have been like a 7-5 or something. It was close.
Right.
I don't know about the second map, Stokes. Do you have a scoreline at all, or was it just like a 7-0 and they got the round?
I don't, because
Okay.
I was on DMs.
All right. No worries. I mean, we'll find out all the scores in the morning, and honestly, we're talking about this right now, and people will already know all the results when they listen to this anyway. So,
right.
It ain't the end of the world that we're not breaking incredible news right now. It's unfortunate. I'd like to break some incredible news. There's another team I want to touch on at NA before we start doing the rounds on some other topics. Rise Nation have been particularly abysmal lately. And it's in stark contrast to the way they ended the season last season. Sorry,
right.
England comes in at the midway point. I think during the transfer window for DreamHack Montreal. They weren't participating at the event, but they were. Actually, yeah, they were. Shit, yeah, they were there. Wow, forgot about that. Anyway, England comes in, but Vert leaves, and they pick up Ghost.
Right.
The problem with Mouse in the first half of the season last season was that they looked like they had no fucking direction. They looked like they were just fish out of water. They had no semblance of an idea of what the fuck to do with themselves as a cohesive unit. England comes in, starts fixing some things. He's that IGL. He's that sit back support player who's gonna command the troops. England hasn't gone anywhere. The fuck's going on with Rise?
Right. Yeah. When you look at even like their first match against Dark Zero, like one of the biggest things that I saw that stuck out like a sore thumb was the fact that They had absolutely no adaptation to the blitz that was being run literally every single round. I think it took 5 attack rounds for them to finally bring out something that could counter the blitz, namely a lesion. Like that, in my mind, tells me this team is not thinking for themselves and um, not on the same page as they need to be in terms of countering the enemy team. And I'm not sure what exactly their coaching situation is currently, ever since that um, since Morksas did not move to, being the new coach as part of Rise. Maybe that has to do with part of it. But you could definitely tell that um, just the team doesn't seem to be able to adapt, and I think that's a big problem. Dark Zero in particular obviously played really well on Oregon, so hats off to them, great. But I think Rise could have done just so much more to counteract what was really going on there. And then when you look at their next games, they played Orglis. I mean, 1-7 clubhouse first when Orglis got defense. Obviously, that's a pretty bad scoreline, but it is a very, very defensive sided map, so I can see how things can go wrong there. And then to get 7-1 on border as well by reciprocity just isn't a good look. And maybe it comes down to the emotional stability of the team. Like maybe they're just becoming too emotional and not objective enough when it comes to actual gameplay. I'm not sure. They have definitely some young players. I know Hyper's pretty darn young, as well as Ghost. Um, but I mean, it's still pretty early on in the season, and they have more than enough talent on that team to turn around. I think they got to figure out some roles as well, make sure that everyone's playing in the right roles. I noticed that Ghost was being swapped around to different roles than what he typically played for them. So maybe that has to do with some of it. But they definitely got to figure things out pretty quick, because it would be very unfortunate for them not to make Invitational, and just be a bottom tier pro league team. That would not be fun. So
Yeah, we've seen in this new format, we're back to a full season format, thank the fucking Lord. Uh,
right,
Gone through one complete season of it now, one complete 6-month season, season 8. And there were a lot of, there was a revolving door at the bottom and there was a revolving door at the top as far as which team was holding on to like 1 and 2 and 3 versus 8, 7, 6. Middle stayed relatively consistent, but everything else near the top and bottom started to change. And like you said, it's early. Things can change. We said Noble after 2 weeks last season was looking like fucking land contenders, and then they didn't get a win for, 8 weeks in a row?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Things
bad.
things can definitely change.
Right.
So shifting gears a little bit more, the SSG versus Orglis scoreline, Stokes is now putting in our little production chat. Yeah, it was 7-5 club, 7-5 consulate.
Mm.
So another
That's
close
pretty
map.
darn close. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you tied it up 6-6, and it goes to round 8,
Yeah. But
right?
they didn't get the
So
tied round because of disconnect.
yeah,
Back to the
well,
rule. Even while
yeah,
we're fucking recording the podcast, it's happening live. I love it.
yeah.
All right, let's get away from that because I'm gonna start screaming.
just
Heading
internally, just internally now.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Heading into Invite. Obviously, that is your guys' biggest focus at the moment. Obviously, got to get through the last 4 play days of Pro League, but like I said, it's looking like mostly a cakewalk for you guys. Couple interesting games against Dark Zero and Reciprocity remaining, but some, I don't want to say free wins because you never know what can happen inside of a match. Is judging by what has happened so far, some softer level opponents along the way. So, looking at
Right.
Invite, looking at, like you just said, up 2-0 grand finals, G2,
Mhm.
the reverse sweep. We've all heard enough about that to fucking make us all sick, especially as NA players and fans and casters and personalities and coaches. Everyone, we're kind of fucking sick of hearing that goddamn story and seeing that goddamn video.
Right.
I don't know, looking, because you weren't with the team last Invitational, but obviously you've been with the guys long enough to kind of understand what they're like, and kind of what they need out of their practice and what they need out of direction and stuff. Is there anything you guys are altering specifically? Because I've heard Troy talk about it all the time, that invite is the number one focus, and I mean, $1.5 million prize pool. Why the fuck wouldn't
Right.
it be your number one focus?
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys are doing differently than you would say for Rio?
Sure. I mean, we were honestly really well prepped for Rio. Um, we had Fnatic totally scouted out. We knew how they played and everything, and it was a blessing in disguise that Magnet couldn't make it,
Yeah.
and that Dizzle, the god, had to come in and sub. That honestly won them the match against us. That being said, we come into every tournament, every match, super prepared against our opponents. We have a very good understanding of how they play. We have a lot of strategies up our sleeve that they've never seen before, and that's exactly what we're going to do for Invitational as well. Our true potential, I don't think, has been seen yet. Rio, we think, was a pretty big fluke. And we also think that at USN, obviously Geo not being there played a big difference as well. For us to even get second place there, we're actually really happy with that because we, put so little effort into trying to win and prepare for that tournament. So Invitational is going to be our big test, and we're already seeing very positive results um, from even just the start of this pro league season. So that being said, you can just expect us to just being just to be firing on all cylinders and just come super prepped to do our thing and do work. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely excited for it. I think you guys have learned a lot from your previous issues, especially from last invitational, because one thing that people love to point out, especially about last invitational, was that Evil Geniuses was really stuck in their ways on how they did things. They're really strat heavy, and if the strats didn't work, they kind of just fell apart. But it seems like you guys have gotten to that point of just being like Play-Doh, where you guys can just mesh to where whatever you need for that situation, and it works. And I don't know if that was just a transition of, okay, we've got a brand new coach, we've got Gotcha in, and now we also have Geo in, which allows us to do a little bit more, as well as just it might be a difference in IGLing. I mean, I would really enjoy an insight into that because that was always the one thing that people faulted you guys for, was that, okay, G2 can flex and do all these things in order to change how a round goes or how a game goes. And it seemed that back then EG faltered at that task. So what is the difference between then and now?
Yeah, so I think you hit the nail on the head. I think before, if you just look at EG's strategy and just their how they played the game, it was very strat focused, very strat intensive, and that was I think a fair portion due to BC being on the team and him IGLing for a period of time. I obviously wasn't there when BC was still on the team, so I'm not sure about all the internal team dynamics, but they did look like a very rigid team. Now with Troy and Geo being able to IGL, kind of in the same way that Fabian and Pengu do for G2, I think it's definitely been a big game changer. Oftentimes, with just one person shot calling, they can't see all the possible angles or what's going on. And now with two people being able to shot call, and Geo especially being very keen on mid-round adaptations as kind of his main focus. It's helped out a ton and allowed us to just be really as flexible as possible. So you'll notice that um, we're winning a lot more clutch situations. We're winning a lot more 2v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s with men down because of just that. We're just able to adapt a whole lot easier and be a lot more flexible and not be as rigid. So big props to Troy and for Geo for just being tremendous IGLs, and even Amar stepping up and being a leader in game has just been tremendous to see.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can definitely tell you that I've definitely seen Canadian come back to form, especially in his pulse play, because there's actually only a couple people that know this. My logo, my Stokes eye thing, is based off of Pulse's logo because Pulse is my favorite op, and I always loved watching Canadian, especially when I was still not as good at the game and didn't understand it that tier. I always love watching Canadian play because Canadian was really, really good with Pulse, and I liked how good he was at distributing how his team moved with that information that he got off of that. And it seems like he's really come back to form with that play, because there for a little bit, like it was still there, but it wasn't as prominent as it was. And it seems like he's able to really move the troops how he really wants them on site, as well as just addressing every other situation with that pulse play more recent to date than he was past year. So it's definitely awesome to see you guys back where NA likes you guys.
Yeah. We have a lot of very flexible players on our team, and honestly, I think the more flexible you are as a player, the more the only more valuable you're going to be to the team. So if you look at Amar, if you look at even Nate, and you look at Troy, and certainly Geo, just being able to play a very wide pool of operators, that just allows us to be more and more flexible, and that's exactly what we all do. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the evolution of the team as a whole, I think it's actually gone full circle now, because back in the CTM days, the whole thing with the team was how adaptive they were, how responsive they were, and how quickly they could read another team's strategies, flip them on their heads, and rip apart any kind of semblance of a strategy and a cohesion for their opponents. And then over time, it kind of got to this rigid point that you're talking about, all the way through like the end of year 2 invitational, and then the beginning of year 3, and then now we're back to the good old days of spontaneity and reactivity, and reading your opponents more than focusing on yourselves. And it's nice to see, and it really does separate you from the better teams from the best of the best teams. It really does come down to that. There's a handful of teams out there who are pretty good, and then there's the teams that are the best of the best. And typically when you see a team excelling far and beyond anyone else in any region, it's most likely because they're not so fucking focused on themselves. They are focused on how to adapt to what's being put in front of them, and not trying to run the same fucking thing into the ground over and over again and making one small tweak. Fuck it, man. Mid round, minute 30, something's happening. Read it, react to it, move it around, get every piece moving as fast as possible. And I don't know, it's something I've harped on in casting for almost a year now. I don't know, it's great to see that, like, the upper echelon of teams now really are understanding that and picking that back up, because back in year 1, that was kind of the differential. Are you going to LAN, or are you just a pro league team?
Right. No, I 100% agree with that comment. The name of the game is adaptation. And a team that adapts best and a team that adapts the quickest is usually the team that's going to win. I mean, if you even look at, you know, G2, right? Like, even when they're down 2v4, 2v3, or in 2v2 situations, they just adapt so well to the situation, and they play off each other so well. It's not necessarily about, picking operators that you know will work, but picking operators that you know will work against the enemy that you're playing now, right?
Yep.
And being able to analyze your opponent and being able to counter strat against them. That's what makes, I think, the best team. Um, so I agree. Anyone that has a more rigid style of play, and isn't as adaptable as they need to be, they've really faltered in this meta, because the more ops that you can play and the more unpredictable that you can be, the better your team's going to be overall. So I 100% agree with that comment.
Yeah, I think the one thing that people really doubt, and not really doubt, but comparative to other FPSs, it isn't that speed kills in this game, it's that fluidity kills. If you have enough ops in your arsenal to where you can change up to anything that another team does, then you win. I think that is one thing that is really doubted upon inside of Rainbow Six, is that people really don't look at it as a MOBA shooter like it really is. There is ops that counter other ops, and if you use those appropriately at a very high tier level, then you will more than likely end up winning the round and then the game. If you're able to identify out what you're supposed to do and what ops are best suited to help you in that round, then I mean, there's really nothing else that you can really do. If you're able to identify those out quickly, then you're in a very, very good spot, to say the least.
Right. I agree with that. Absolutely.
All right, so I think this is a perfect time to kind of get into the mind of Aaron Chung or Gotcha, as they like to call you. We're gonna delve a little bit back, into the Wikipedia pages. It's gonna be a good time. I think you're gonna have fun with this.
Sure.
So we're gonna delve back in the career of Gotcha and see where it's come from. So humble beginnings, at least from Wikipedia's standpoint. You started with vertical gaming in October of 2017. Then you went to Regime after that for a little stint that ended a little bit later in 2018, February, actually. Then you had a very short stint back with Vertical. Then you guys transitioned over to Most Wanted, then to Bittersweet, then to Disrupt, which everyone mostly knows you from. I know you from Bittersweet because I kind of tracked that back to at least then. And then obviously back to Disrupt. Then you went to Evil Geniuses. So you spent basically a full year as a higher tier competitive player, and then you ended up going to a coach with Evil Geniuses. So what was the main choice behind that, and what was your favorite team to play on?
Yeah. So I first started in Challenger League by joining Orgless, and that was with Bio and Achieved um and Nix at the time, and that was my first time in Challenger League and first time in official competition outside of like Go Fours and whatnot, and I learned a lot and had a lot of great experiences there, and got a lot of good competitive experience out of that. But I felt like I could be a really good IGL, and just the way that team was structured wasn't conducive for me to excel in. So I had actually decided to leave that team and create a team from scratch with Spades. And we ended up eventually bringing in Modiga, Remorse, and Evil Waffle to that team, and had a fantastic run. And then towards the end of right before the CL playoffs, I decided to leave once I got the offer from Evil Geniuses. So in terms of the funnest team that I've been a part of, it was definitely creating Disrupt along with Spades. Um, we've actually, I think we dropped 3 or 4 people from our team. Um, Zoinkers, Skittles. I'm sure I'm forgetting some others as well to form what the team is now, and they still have that core. I think they're playing right now against Dark Zero, and now it's Breezy, Modiga, Evil Waffle, Spades, and Remorse, and it was just so exciting starting something from scratch and just seeing it excel to the level that it did. And honestly, again, as I've mentioned before in this podcast, I truly believe that if I stayed on that team until and played out the playoffs, we would be in Pro League today. Maybe not a top tier PL team, but somewhere in the middle or towards the bottom. So that was probably the funnest experience I've had. Um, it was enjoyable because it really helped establish all of us um, as competitive players and not just rank stars that we were known for in 10 mans or whatnot. And it was just a lot of fun, just beating people's expectations, even beating some pro league teams like in the Paris major qualifiers, upsetting Elephant Gang in CL quals and CL playoffs and things like that. And all of it was just a tremendous experience from beginning to end. And it's tragic that things didn't end better, but it's just what I had to do for myself, and I'm still on good terms with all the guys. I still keep in touch with Remorse and Spades and Waffle and Modiga. So there's no hard feelings there, but that was just a tremendous experience overall.
Yeah, I think the one major thing that I took away from that, especially the move of you going to Evil Geniuses for a head coach, was that anybody in your shoes at that point would have done the exact same thing and nobody can fault you for that. I understand that a lot of people were, especially Disrupt fans and just people in general, were like, well, why would Gotcha leave when he could have been a player and made it to Pro League anyways? Because everyone had so much faith in that roster. And I mean, honestly, to quote a great player from another game, I'm just gonna name him Scump in that interview that he talks about. When you have an opportunity to join a team, even if it isn't a coaching role, that is so far ahead of where you currently are, if you don't take that, you're stupid.
Right.
That's if you honestly would have rejected that, Gotch, and we had this interview today, and you were still on Disrupt, and you said, "Yeah, Evil Geniuses offered me a coaching position, and I didn't take it because I wanted to be a player," I probably would have called you dumb. I'm just letting you know. Like
Right.
that's non-conducive to what you're trying to be, and no one can fault you in the route that you chose. And obviously, you deserve it. You've definitely helped this team develop to the point of where they were. You with alongside some of the greatest players North America's ever seen. So if you guys can continue to build upon this awesome, I mean, showing that you guys have had so far, then there's definitely some bright things in your guys' future. So,
Yeah.
Flynn, did you have any other questions for the young goat here?
Any specific questions? Well, there's one topic that I typically harp on whenever I talk about EG. It's Nate.
Sure.
I know everyone likes to pipe up on Reddit and Twitter and stuff about it. I've never I've never been on the side of making a roster change by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And I'm obviously also not asking for like deep, crazy personal secrets. I'm curious what your views are on. I guess it's a slip in performance. I'll call it what it is. It's a different mentality as well for Nate. He's in a much different role than he used to be. Um, it's I don't know. It's weird to see him kind of just regress to the point that he's at right now. It's not that he's a bad player. The mechanics have always been there. He's just not quite the showstopper a lot of people remember him as, including myself. Is
Mhm.
that is that really is it just the role that he's in, or is it I don't know, is it a lack of necessity for one man to show out like he used to? Is it just an evolution of a player's mindset? Like what's tell me about Nate. What's his evolution been as long as you've been with the team? What's his evolution been with you?
Sure. So I don't know much about Nate's background outside of when I initially joined.
Yeah.
I knew obviously he was an EG, he was a fantastic player. Outside of that, I don't know that much history of what his roles were prior or whatnot. I know a little bit about it, but not much. Um, that being said, I think it'd be good to clarify what Nate's roles are and maybe helpful for audiences to realize what he's doing,
Hmm.
and what roles he's on, because that would justify whether or not he's a good player or not. So a lot of the time on attack, he has acted as a second entry and then eventually a flank watch for us. So he will enter the building and clear a certain area for us, and then at that point, watch flank or lurk somewhere. So his job is not to run into sight and kill everybody. Not anywhere close on attack.
Hmm.
His job is to watch the flank after he's entered into a certain area. And he does that job really, really well. And his aim is tremendous. He's a very smart player. He's a very good player. And very experienced at that as well. And he plays that role very, very well. And if it happens that a team is trying to flank a lot and Nate gets a lot of kills, fantastic. If it happens that teams are, afraid to flank at all because they know Nate's there, then fantastic.
Yeah.
He's doing his job regardless, right? But it's the same job, but two
Yeah.
different results just based on who you're playing. So no one can fault Nate and say, "Oh, you're not doing your job well because you're not getting kills." No, you might not see it on the scoreboard, but scoreboards for us literally means nothing at all.
Hmm.
At Rio, yes, he did have a bad showing. One LAN. Oh well, who cares? Um, is he still fundamentally a tremendously good and experienced player? Absolutely. And that's why you've seen him just do tremendous things at the start of the season, just playing those roles well for us. On defense, Nate does play as one of our primary roams, which is great. And he's been doing a great job doing that. Roaming is a lot more difficult at a pro league level than you might imagine. It's not just Cav hiding around in a basement or somewhere halfway across the map hoping for the best, but it's a lot more difficult. So that being said, he's done a really great job roaming together with Troy and with Geo and with other players, and he's just been doing a fantastic job overall. He had a bad showing at Rio, which sucks, but that's just one LAN. And being able to trust in your teammate and know that, and give faith to your teammate and back up your teammate even when things go wrong after one big game is a true sign of friendship and a sportsmanship, as well as a true professional. So, the whole team is behind Nate. We've never doubted him for a second. We know that he's a tremendous player. He does his job really, really well. He had a bad showing at Rio, and that's about it. You can, yeah, and at the end of the day, you lose as a team and you win as a team,
Mhm.
right? And so we don't listen to Twitch chat. Certainly, we
Oh
don't
yeah,
listen
no,
to Reddit.
no.
We we take roster changes very, very seriously and not lightly at all. And we still have full faith in Nate and his ability as a player. And he's just been playing lights out recently. Even in the most recent game against Rogue, he's just been doing
Mhm.
tremendously well. And we think we'll just continue to see that in the games to come, and certainly at Invitational.
Yeah, that was kind of the point I completely forgot to touch on when I was talking about your guys' 3-game stretch so far. Is that, well, I said that everyone was clicking, and I forgot really to single out Nate because he's been, I guess, left in the back burner of people's minds for a while now, simply because, like you said, he's in a different role than I think people remember him being in a completely different iteration of the team. He was
Mhm.
facilitating a different purpose and a different role, and like you said, scoreboards mean jack shit.
Right.
A win's a
It's yeah, a win's a win, a loss is a loss, and you lose together, like you said. I don't know. I think you're right. I think the explanation of the roles was necessary because there are a lot of people out there who view the scoreboard as end all be all, and they talk about Lauren about how she shouldn't be in pro league, and I mean she's not anymore, but she did her role.
Right.
She fulfilled her role to a T, and had some of the best composure in probably some of the most terrifying situations, especially when, the aggression on that team kind of bit her teammates in the ass.
Right.
I don't know. I just, one day, I swear to God, it will happen. I don't care who it's against. I don't care what game it is. I'm going to see Nate Ash, and I'm going to see him running and kill 5 people in 10 seconds, and I'm just going to lean back in my chair and go, there he is. There's the
Right.
old Nate that everyone wants to see, and then he'll go back to doing his job, because that's what you need. You need everyone to
One
fulfill a role.
signature.
Oh yeah, one round,
Drops.
one game, doesn't matter who it's against. It could be against a fucking, I don't know, an IEG team or a CCS team. One round, Nate murders everyone shuts up, and it's over.
Right.
I mean, honestly, like the one thing, especially that I'm going to agree with Gotcha on right here with the current iteration of EG, is that everyone at any point in time can show up. Because like
Oh
you
yeah.
go all the way back to like the Evil Geniuses versus Space Station game, and Young was just slamming everybody. Like anybody
Right.
that peaked Young, they were just Danny DeLito. They're gone. Like
Right.
it was crazy. It was a great game, and Canadian showed up too. I mean, the one thing that kind of, well, it really didn't get me. I kind of understood it, but the one thing that really did kind of blow me away was that Mira didn't get banned, especially with
Right.
Space Station banning Clash, because Clash really hasn't seen that much use. Like, okay, maybe they just don't want the site presence there, but your guys are going to leave Mira on the board. And nobody really used Mira. I mean, you guys used Twitch a crap load, but it was mainly just Canadian murdering everybody with an F2. There was really no Mira play by Space Station at all on defense. And I mean, the map as a whole was kind of weird, but you guys more or less just ran away with it. I mean, a 7-3 score line is nothing to shake your head at. So,
Right. And honestly, 2 of those rounds, in my opinion, were thrown where we had bombed down and we allowed them to clutch up. So in my opinion, it definitely could have been 7-1.
this is why I love having coaches on the podcast, because like, yeah, they just fucked everything up and allowed that to happen. So
Yep.
it's
Right. Yeah.
oh, man.
Because that's what
Uh,
we do too, right?
Yeah, Yeah.
We're
it's
on the
great.
cast, and I'm sitting there today. I'm like, oh my god, how did you miss that shot? Or what the fuck is this rotation? Or what the actual shit are you doing? Like, it's our
Right.
job to do that shit. So it's nice to also talk to coaches who also get to do that, but then talk to the players and say, hey, smarten up. You're a fucking idiot. All right, get your shit together.
Right.
I feel like Gotcha has a couple of clips just in his arsenal that whenever anyone gets too high on their horse, there's like, hey, remember this? Yeah, okay, shut the fuck up, okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we definitely have to. There's a lot of superstar players on our team that sometimes hype themselves up a little bit too much, and I gotta be sure to put them back down.
Troy. Sorry, big sneeze.
If you say woo one more time, one more fucking time, I swear to God.
Yeah.
Can't wait
But
to
yeah,
see everyone.
just on that point, just really quick.
Yeah.
When you have so many tremendous players and all of them who can frag out, all of them who can just gun every single person on the opposite team, like it's hard to shine amongst other stars when everyone's so
Yeah.
crazy good, right? It's easy to shine on a team where there's a clear distinction in terms of the skill level between one player and another, right? And usually more bottom tier pro league teams, you'll see it, right? Oh, that's the star player. That's the one who's carrying the team. When you look at our team, any single one of these guys can carry the team at any point, and they do. So it's so when people look at a scoreboard like, oh, Nate didn't do too well, but we won by 7-1, 7-2, even 7-3. Like, everyone's doing their job perfectly, and that's all we ask our players to do. Like, if I was a pro league player and my entire stat was 0-0 for the entire season, but my team won every single game, there's nothing to be ashamed of at all. You did your job. You're definitely playing your role properly, and you can't complain about that.
Oh damn. All right. Might as well might as well just shout this out right now because Stokes is throwing this in our little production chat group DM thing. Big shout outs to Candor from CGG for offering to pro bono just do all of our graphics for us. So you're a fucking all-star, Candor. And also thank you for all the trading card things that you did for us as the casters from USN, and for the players who've also received some of them from you in the past, and all the GFX stuff that you've done for us. Big shouts to Candor. I'm pretty sure it's Candor GG on Twitter.
R6.
R6.
Candor R6.
There you go. Go toss that man a follow, please. He does a lot of good graphics work for CGG. Now for us, because why not? I don't know. Stokes is a wizard. I don't know. He arranged to get Gotcha on here, and then he's got graphics being made, and I'm just chilling in the background trying to make sure I upload things properly. It's a mess.
I
dude.
don't even know how I do these things. I just DM people and things happen. I was like, yo, we should probably get a guest on it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna ask Gotcha because Gotcha's lit. Let's see if he wants to get on here. And then Gotcha was like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh, okay.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to tell me to fuck myself, but that's fine. It's all good. All right, well, I guess we can delve a little bit more into NA, and Gotcha, feel free to hop in at any time if you have any keynotes on anything that you've seen, because obviously we get to watch them, but I still have a fucking day job, so I don't get to watch them as much as I want to and, break them down. And I know that obviously you have a couple of keynotes on the back end. Obviously, don't reveal everything in the God's truth to every team, like, this is why they fuck up and everything else. If you have a keynote, feel free to hop in. But we are going to be going over the games from Sunday and Monday of North American Pro League. And we're going to be starting off with Dark Zero versus Rogue.
Admin call. Should have been a tie. Done.
All right. Well, it was going to be on Coastline.
Yeah.
And the main outliers here are going to be Eclipse, Shuttle, Jarvis, and Hot and Cold, respectively, for both of the teams. The main one here for me is going to be that of actually Shuttle and Hot and Cold actually played the exact same ops. They both played Buck and Rook a ton. And I know this was a main thing that's been talked about a little bit, and actually Parker touched on his cast tonight, was that, well, actually, I don't think it was Parker. I actually think it was Troy. That one main thing that's been showing up recently is the double ACOG meta, which has been Doc and Rook really coming out and showing prevalence in these defensive rounds. more focused on trying to get picks and set things up for the defense. And what do you think of that meta that's really been showing its face recently?
Um, yeah, I mean, not everything on defense always goes according to plan, right? But a lot of the times when teams are able to fully set up, there's not much that you can do on defense other than hold an angle, maybe toss a C4 and hope for the best. When you're holding an ACOG with Maestro or Doc or Rook, you can challenge a lot more things. And now that teams are getting only better and better at executing and setting up for execute, getting those picks, I think, are really, really important. And so people just picking Rook Doc or Maestro off the fly just for the ACOG, I think is coming into prevalence because now you have Glaz, now you have Ying, you have all these operators that are able to just really take over a site really, really well. So before allowing them to execute, getting a pick here and there and weakening their attack significantly, I think is very, very important. And so that's why I think you're seeing that a resurgence of Rook Doc combo into double ACOG and whatnot.
Yeah, because there for quite a while, Rook was kind of just a dark art per se. Everyone was like, well, you really only get armor and you really only ever see him in Pro League because they might need some rotates with his impacts. That's really it. And he's seen such a resurgence in play recently that I feel like that really just needs to be talked about because of that. So that match, not as you said, it should have been a tie due to that ruling, but again, that's just rolling back into the or saying of that. So nothing too crazy. That next up, we are going to have Space Station Gaming versus Team Reciprocity. That's going to be a tie. That was on Coastline as well, and actually tying up on both sets of rounds. So 4 offensive wins for SSG, 4 offensive wins for Reciprocity. You guys know 2 and 2 on the defensive side of things. And again, it was more or less just Team Reciprocity versus Rampy because Rampy broke the record for most kills in a Pro League match ever. Granted, that wasn't on the old settings where Pengu held the record. It is on the new settings where there's a lot more rounds played, but still, 22-6 is nothing to shake your head at. And no one really there on his team to help him. I mean, 6-9 for Chala, 6-10 for Bosco, 4-10 for Redeemer, and 1-9 for Thinking Nade. I don't think I've ever seen Thinking Nade go 1-9 in my entire life. So, not too hot of a showing for them, but plus 16 for the boy Rampy. So, I mean, it really was just the Rampy show. And if anything, he got them into a match that they really had no business in being in.
Yeah, I mean, the SSG thing for me, like the Rampy 22 kills thing, that's an abnormality. That's not something that is sustainable. You can't bank on that.
He had a rating of 2.21, by the way, just to put that out there.
That's stupid. Yeah, like I touched on when we were talking about like, trends of the team. This game, it really did seem like making losing moves. I don't know. There was a couple rounds in there. I mean, Coastline is fickle. It goes back and forth, honestly, team to team as to what side it favors. It used to be universally attacker sided, and it's fucking goddamn shit show as far as being able to predict anything. A lot of the maps this season as a whole have just shit show as far as predicting what would trend. Or I think Clubhouse right now has stayed true to form and heavily Consulate's taken a hard dip towards sided. I think there was a Coastline game in Empire game. Empire went like 5-1 to start half on deep. I don't even remember after that. It ended with like 9 defensive round wins on a Coastline game, and I was sitting there scratching my head, wondering what fucking universe I fell into. I don't know. Reciprocity seemed like they weren't taking advantage as also, Chala has just not been great, I must say. Been having a tough one.
It definitely looks like Chala has been struggling. It's actually pretty apparent. I'm not sure what's going on there, but he does need to step it up for his team, because they're missing out on a lot of firepower. Because Chala just is insane, generally, but just this season he seems to be struggling.
Yeah, it's like he's always been in that breacher role. It's a flex breach role because like Redeemer will also facilitate like the strict hard breach. If Charles going breach, he's going Hibon. Most often Hibon. If they need a thermite, Redeemer will pick. I don't know, man. It's not even really on the attacking side for me. It's on the defensive side for me for Chala. There's so many times where he's playing like a pure fragging role. Like Ella, he's been holding the far side of the map. He's I don't know, just in decent flex roles at the very least. And there's just fuck man. There are a lot of gunfights out there where you're looking kind of wish you could get a redo on that one and start adding those up. And there's like 5 or 6 already through games where I'm looking at Chala going, "Jeez, you used to not miss these shots." And I mean, you walk away with 2 ties to round out the stupid ass weekend out of back-to-back games. I mean,
Yeah.
you escape with 2 out of a possible 6 points, and you have a 2 out of a possible 9 points on the entirety of the season. They definitely are feeling the loss of Chala there.
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing for me with SSG right now, allergies took effect. I was there for a second, but we're okay. No sneeze coming, so we're good. Anyways, the main thing with SSG for me is that it seems like the team is completely out of sync right now. I mean, they've kind of just had these outliers of, okay, high performance from one player kind of keeps us in the game, but we lose anyways, i.e. the Rampy game, where it was Rampy versus Reciprocity, as everyone loves to meme about now. But, I mean, if you guys watch their games, even the game I casted today, their first map was Consulate against 92 Dream Team, which is Yardy's team. Gotcha. If you remember that crazy game that they had against Obey.
Yeah.
And they've literally had barely any practice. I literally talked to Yard after it, and he's like, yeah, we've literally had 2 practice days. We've been a team for. And they ended up winning Consulate against SSG. That is not something that should be happening to a pro league team that's supposed to be finishing top 4, you know? So it's definitely makes you wonder what's been going on behind the scenes. If it is just, okay, maybe they really haven't gotten back in the swing of things from USN, but that is a sorry excuse with that only being a month ago, and everyone knows damn good and well no one took that entire month off of not scrimming, you know? And the thing for me, especially with the match that happened in Invite Quals today with them, was that SSG loses 7-5 or it was 7-4, 7-4 on Consulate. And then immediately after that, they play Villa and Border. And then they do not drop around for the last 2 maps, 14-0 against the exact same team. They just took a pretty decent L on Consulate when all these players are just either known for just being an absolute gunner or known from either Challenger League play. And they've barely been a team together. So what do you think is SSG's drawback right now from their USN play to now?
I'm not sure. And that's an easy answer to give, right? But
Also a
honestly,
fair one. Like there's a lot of things going on right now that we don't necessarily have answers to.
yeah, I mean, certainly Chala not performing at the level that we usually see him perform at, I think, is a big factor. Rampy used to actually be an old teammate of mine, and I have the utmost of respect for him. And his career and his career trajectory and where he came from and where he is now is just tremendous. And it's amazing that he dropped, the most kills in a pro league match now, 22 was it?
Yeah,
Like
22.
that's just I mean that was insane, right? But him dropping 22 means that someone else is not dropping kills. Someone's
Correct.
not pitching in.
it's a lot of people aren't dropping
Right.
kills.
Right. So a lot of people aren't dropping kills, right? Like I said, for me, SSG is just too predictable right now, and teams are able to pick that apart. They need to become a more unpredictable team. They need to develop deeper and better strategies and counter strategies, for that matter. Because as soon as teams pick up on what they're doing, they'll do everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen again. But it just doesn't seem like currently they're able to do that, to catch their enemy off guard. So the entire team is struggling as a result. And then, of course, when people are underperforming for one reason or another, um, that hurts. And it doesn't look like Chala's on like a new role or anything of that sort. It actually looks like he's playing the exact roles he's always been playing, but just not playing up to par. So I'm not sure. They have a lot of tremendous talent on that team. Bringing on Bosco was very, very good for that team, I think, overall. Brian was also a very, very good player, don't get me wrong, but maybe they're still getting used to Bosco in different roles. Now they seem to be switching around Rampy a little bit. He didn't play anywhere close to as much Ash as he gets to play now. So maybe it's just role swapping. I'm not sure. But whatever it is, again, they need to figure it out pretty fast because I think that they do have the potential to, to continue to be a top 4 team. Obviously, we think we're the best here at EG, but they can be up there as well. So, and I don't know. That's the short answer.
Do you think it's more or less just that honeymoon phase with Bosco has ended, and now they're trying to really fit the roster together, fit the
It
puzzle pieces a little bit tighter, and that's kind of punishing them?
I mean, that could definitely be the case. When Bosco came in and, they went to DreamHack, they looked like they were, a real contender for even the top 2 positions in North America. Right now, with the way that they're playing, and people being able to counter them so well, it doesn't look too promising. So, yeah, I think that now that the honeymoon's over, let's, get into the nuts and bolts of it and figure out what's going on. Make sure everyone's playing the proper roles. Make sure that we're doing enough research on the enemy team to predict how they're going to play, and let's counter strat. That's what I would be doing if I was in Lycan's shoes, and I'm sure that he's doing that because he's a fantastic coach. But they do need to figure out some stuff for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what I enjoy about Pro League comparative to even a year ago, was that we have all these high tier players, and now it's more or less just a coaching mental mind game, which that's one of my favorite parts about sports in general, is when you have high tier teams where it's just, okay, it's down to the nitty gritty on who's going to win this, and it's going to be who stratted the best, who's able to try and have that fluidity to try and get around other people's strats and work their way to this victory, not just, oh yeah, we blew you guys out 7-2 and you guys are just not nearly the caliber of players we are. And I feel like NA is finally hitting that point where we have that amount of talent inside of the Pro League pool to really have that. And it's awesome. I mean, it's really, really cool, especially with like, per se, like you versus Ranger. Again, I know that like you haven't really gotten to fulfill your coaching role like you've really wanted to, but hey, you got to play on a land stage in front of an awesome crowd there in Vegas. That was awesome. That was really, really cool to have.
Right.
And I mean, you've even gotten to play some Pro League matches on Pro League Day, and that's really cool. But it's definitely going to be awesome to see Rogue versus EG. It's high quality player versus high quality player, and it's Ranger versus Gotcha, who has the best strat book in their hands and who can make drive their team to be the best. And I mean, that mental mind game has always been one thing that I've always loved about sports and esports in general, and I'm really happy that we finally hit that point. Have that.
Yeah. Taking a quick pause, by the way. My old team Disrupt.
I was just
beat,
gonna say that.
Yeah. They just beat Dark Zero.
Yup.
In a very close and contested match. So Dark Zero now goes to the loser bracket, and
What did I say?
DG still in the winners bracket.
What did I say?
The favorites to win the whole thing get knocked out by Gotcha's old team while we have Gotcha on the podcast.
What did I say, baby? What did I say? Throw Disrupt in there, baby. Disrupt is my wild card. Fucking 3-4 episodes. I was like, you know what? Let me give Disrupt the online qualifier bid as my wild card. And Stokes is like, Disrupt, really? Yeah, motherfucker.
Well, my argument was good. You can't blame
So
me.
was
My
mine,
argument was
idiot.
good.
So was
Okay,
mine.
All right. They got to make it there first. Okay?
Shouts out to Jeff and the whole crew, man.
Hey,
Fucking love those guys.
I love Mo. You know that. Mo is my dude. I love that kid.
Jeff
So
is
I'm
my
extremely
snuggle
happy for them.
bunny. Jeff is my
Hey,
snuggle
you know
bunny.
what? I would kiss remorse. Get over it. Right?
Get Brad to
Brad-
land, man. Get Brad to land.
Get Brad to land. But hey,
Also,
I'm happy for
I
the
just
boy.
I'd like to shout out Bacon's tweet as well. said GG's to Disrupt and then said we lost to losers. What does that make you then, Jordan? What does that make you then?
Oh no, no, no,
Nice.
no, no! I think he means we fall to the losers bracket. Just to be clear,
Oh.
I don't think he's saying we fell, because he says we fall to losers, as in like losers bracket. I'm pretty sure he's not saying.
All right,
losers.
all right.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
Jordan,
if he is
do all this
saying
shit all the
that,
time.
which I doubt that he is, like, hey, you lost to them, so what does that make you?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
They'll be fun in the losers bracket,
yeah.
but yeah, shouts out to Disrupt, man. Jeez.
Yeah. I will say though, it makes it that much harder to come up from the losers bracket now, because the sheer amount of matches that you have to play to try to make it to the grand final. So
I actually
really
wanna-
happy for my boys. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
I actually asked Mo while we were at USN. I was talking. No, it might have been that or we were playing ranked. I can't remember. Anyways, I was asking. I was like, "So how did you get on Disrupt?" And he said, "Well, my team scrimmed Disrupt, and then my team disbanded." So I messaged Gotch and was like, "Yo, can I come on as a sub? I really just want to learn from you guys." And he was like, "Why don't you just come on as a player?" And it was, okay. So you really discovered some hidden talent out there. I remember your tweet before Mo ever played a match that was casted, and you're like, "I love finding hidden talent. You guys are gonna see what this kid really has." And it's like, all right, like I really didn't have a grasp on the whole situation of Disrupt as a whole yet. I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll see what Gotcha really has in the tank of his rainbow knowledge. And then Mo just comes out here and murders everybody, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. You know what? You know what's crazy? We're on a Discord call right now, and I could literally screenshot what I sent to Mo. The story is actually a little bit different. I actually approached Mo after I noticed his performance and said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming on as a sub?" So, like, if you look at the Discord chat right there, that's literally back in June of 2018, where I approached Mo and asked him. And he quickly showed us that he's more than deserving of a starting roster spot, and he quickly became that. And man, just big congrats to their success, taking down DZ, the top expected team to win out Invitational, and dropping them down to the losers bracket says miles about what Disrupt is capable of. So
yeah,
big congrats to them.
Well, I just pulled up the bracket, and I figure we might as well try and break this down a little bit, because everyone will know the results in the morning, but now that we have all the results out there in the open for us, I think we're waiting on one more game in the losers bracket to finish up. Yeah, one more game in the losers bracket to finish up, and then we'll have every result. But Accelerate beat Spaghetti Monsters 2-0, Taichu beat Sinister 2-1. Space Station obviously beat the 92 Dream Team with the 14-0 on the last two maps. Orglis beat Passion Fruit 2-1. Rise Nation beat Members Only 2-0. E-Gang versus Least Wanted, which I casted, was a 2-1 win for E-Gang. Disrupt 2-0 Toon Squad, and then it was a 2-1 victory against Dark Zero, which we're talking about. And before that, it was Dark Zero taking down Team Thick. In the semifinals now, it is Accelerate against Space Station on the winners bracket, and Rise against Disrupt. I really feel like Disrupt is going places, man.
yeah.
I'm taking
going to the finals.
I'm taking SSG over EXG.
Don't you mean quarterfinals? This is quarterfinals now. Is that what you
No,
mean?
semifinals. They played 2 rounds tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, they played 2 rounds. That's correct.
Then
So
how do they get back to the? Oh, okay. So it goes to the final. Whoever wins that goes to the losers bracket, plays the final in the losers bracket, then comes back up. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That because you understand where I'm coming from. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, how does that? Why do
The
we have
lower-
a losers bracket if there's already the semifinals? But
like Gotcha said, the lower bracket is fucking massive.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is gonna be a shit show of games.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the upper
Dark Zero has
bracket,
quite the hill to climb.
you go 2-0 today. All you gotta do is go 2-0 tomorrow, and it's over. You're in the grand final.
That's wild, dude. That's really, really wild. If I had to shake a stick at it, I would say what was the top bracket? What was the top part of that bracket again?
EXG versus SSG.
Okay, I'm gonna go SSG over EXG. I'm gonna go dark. No, my goodness, dark. I would go Disrupt over Rise, just mainly due to the fact that Rise is still in this really, really weird state.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good friends with the guys on members only, and I talked to them about that game. And basically, what they said is that things were just really, really out of tune for everybody. So it was more or less who had less of a shit show that was going on is who won that game. So I think Rise still isn't in form, and I think that Disrupt coming off that Dark Zero win is going to ride the hype and just completely obliterate what is Rise. So we will see. We will see tomorrow. So
Yep.
definitely going to be a fun-filled day.
Yeah, in the losers bracket, Least Wanted prevailed against members only. They play Orglis tomorrow. Taichu
They
will
got
play...
DC'd, dude. They got DC'd.
Oh, did they? Same
Yeah,
kind of fucking thing.
because Wicked's motherboard basically isn't accepting internet, so it literally just DC'd him, and then they had to forfeit because they couldn't get their fifth on anymore for the last map. It was 1-1.
Yeah, it
So,
says
very
on
unfortunate.
ESL that Least Wanted won 2-1. That's unfortunate. Yeah, tomorrow, those upper bracket games that I talked about, then Orglis against Least Wanted. That's a pretty interesting game. Taichu against Toon Squad. That could be an interesting game. We're waiting on the result of Sinister against Spaghetti Monsters to know the last person to make it into the second half of this losers bracket round of 8, number 2. It's so fucking weird. And then E-Gang against 92 Dream Team to round out the losers bracket. So what? There's still 8 games tomorrow? 6 games tomorrow to start things off? Yeah, 6 and then another 4. So 10 games total tomorrow.
Plus Pro League.
Oh yeah, plus Brazilian Pro League again, back to back.
Month.
Super months are fun. How are you guys handling the super months? How's the reaction to all that chaos?
Yeah. So I mean, we've prepped for our teams really, really well, like I said. So it's not really phasing us.
Yeah.
It makes it even more exciting and almost more dramatic that we get back-to-back matches. But I'm kind of used to them because that's what CL used to be, except it wasn't even back-to-back days. It was
right after
back-to-back
each other.
matches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm looking at my guys now. I'm like, dude, you guys got it easy, bro. Back-to-back days is easy peasy. Imagine playing back-to-back best of one.
Yeah.
Like that's something, you know. So
trust us.
We know. We were
Right,
sitting there casting you motherfuckers the whole time, going, "Hey, let's do 7 games tonight." Yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
I actually just wanted to round everything.
CL was a fucking, that was a grind. That was a grind.
There was days after like we would have crazy matches like that I couldn't even talk. Like
Yeah.
my voice is just ruined. I sounded like a 70-year-old person who'd been smoking cigarettes for 48 years. It's terrible.
Well, I definitely want to get rolling here with casting these qual games, because after one best of 3 tonight, I was fucking choking up, and I'm like, that's not gonna go well.
All right, we'll jump back into Pro League because the next match is actually relevant to the man we got.
Oh my god! Shut up with the games. The last 2 were so boring.
Evil Geniuses versus Accelerate Gaming 7-1. Any thoughts on it, Gotcha? I feel like we can literally just say, hey, Necrox and Young shot a lot of people. That's really the kind of the general consensus of what happened.
Yeah, so Accelerate's coming in, and obviously I know Bio and Chief because I was former teammates with them, and they have a lot of respect for everyone on EG. They're seasoned veterans.
Yep.
When you think of, any pro, you think of, Troy, Gio, Amar, Young, Nate, right? So that being said, maybe some of it was due to first day, Pro League jitters, or, even second day Pro League jitters, which is fair. They are playing against the best of the best. So, we're coming at them with everything we have. A little bit of insight, by the way. Gio got food poisoning, and I had found out an hour or 2 before that there's a high likelihood that he wasn't going to play. So not having practiced again with the team at all is coming in. We were just like, all right, well, we just got to show up here and just play off each other and do well on defense, and we did just that. And we had a great run on defense on the coastline, which is not typical because it's pretty attacker favored map. And we just played our game, and it countered what they were trying to do. We had a pretty good idea of how they played and how they attacked, and we had scouted them out pretty well. I'm really happy with my performance. I think I could have even done better if not for like a couple ranked peaks here and there.
It
But
happens. Happens to the best of us.
Yup.
but yeah, I mean, Amar and Young once again showed up huge. Amar just carrying. I think he dropped 14 kills, if I'm not mistaken, and had a perfect cost. Young right up there with him, carrying the team, and then me in the middle, Troy and Nate on the bottom in terms of just pure frags. But everyone just played their part really, really well, and we executed on our strategy and just played around with what we had. And it's always fun playing with my guys. When I was at USN, that was I think 2 months after I had joined EG or so,
Yeah.
and that was the first time that I actually missed, being a player, missing that feeling of the adrenaline of playing in a highly, in a big match in front of a crowd or even in front of an online audience. And so, any opportunity I get, I love it. Not that I want Gio to keep getting sick or anything of that sort. I'm super glad that he came back in full swing against Rogue. I mean, he top frag for us as well. But yeah, I mean, we had a really good showing against EXG, and I think we were expecting to do that with or without Geo as well.
Yeah, and just for that tagline, it wasn't actually Nexrox dropped 12 and 4, Young dropped 10 and 3, you dropped 7 and 5, Canadian 4 and 5, and NVK 4 and 6. But as you know, that little insight that Gotcha gave you guys, MVK really didn't have to worry about kills because Necrox and Young were shooting everybody in their face. So, when you're the flank holder and everyone's already dead, you really don't have a job. So,
Right.
what happened?
Yeah. When your support players are top fragging and clutching out important rounds and everything, it's it's a sight to behold. And Amar and Young just so far this season have just been playing lights out. And honestly, they've become the star of the show. And I just love seeing that. And everyone on the team has just been doing fantastically well in their roles and executing on our strategy. So.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to have Necrox back playing. It kind of got nostalgic there for me when he took the coaching position and just stopped playing. I was like, I've watched Necrox the entire time I followed Rainbow Six. You know what I mean? And then he just takes a step back and moves to a coaching position after so long. Okay, like I understand it. Like you don't want to play anymore, but then the transition back, I don't think I've been more excited for anything in my entire life when he came back to be a player. Honestly, like, it was a really, really cool sight to see, and especially him finding this success recently has been fantastic.
Yeah. Thank God that he didn't leave EG when he became a coach.
Yeah,
Or when
thank
he was
God.
yeah, we're people Amar is just one of the most consistent fraggers, players, teammates out of anybody in Pro League, period. And he just shows up every single day without fail. Rain or shine, day or night, he's just that reliable as a player, and it's really beginning to show in all of our matches. And even at Rio, right when we got slapped, even on Oregon, I think he dropped double digit kills and was carrying as our Habana player, right? So it's just like he's just a tremendous player, and not enough good things could be said about Amar and certainly about Young as our support players as well.
Very nice, very nice. Well, transitioning into the next match.
Oh,
this is
enough
gonna
of the
be
matches. Such a boring game.
Flu, we got to get through it.
No, we don't. We've already talked about all the games. We've already talked about literally every single game that has taken place.
That was relevant. That's what you're saying.
Yes. We've talked about every relevant game.
Rise Nation, crazy killed everybody.
My God.
And Hyperhead 1, 9, and 7.
I get it. You can read CGG. We're really fucking proud of you, Stokes. We're really proud.
Calm down. All right, fine. We'll go to the next relevant one. Fine. Evil Geniuses wins over Rogue. We already got that one. Next big one that happened. What?
We talked about that one.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm just reading through the day. Flynn, calm down.
Read the results then.
Calm down. Calm down. We got it. Okay. Accelerate over Orglis 7-3. That one was kind of weird because the last match, obviously, they played you. They had Thomas in, but nothing really changed. 7-1, and then they end up beating Orglis after Orglis just beat Rise. So that kind of just shaped the view of what kind of the bottom of Pro League was going to look like for me, at least. But if anything, it kind of just showed the weak point of Orglis's game, which was that they really don't deal well with the unknown. They don't really transition very well into that or really have anything to adapt with. So if they really haven't studied on what's been going on with that team, then they get punished by it. So I definitely think that exposed a big hole in their game.
Yeah. Accelerate really laid the smackdown on Orglis, and they looked like they were definitely in the driver's seat that entire game. And super proud of them of being able to come back from a 7-1 after playing us to smacking Orglis like that. I mean, good for them. I like all the Orglis boys too, by the way. They're all tremendous players and really great guys. I got to meet them at USN, but man, for a team new to Pro League to come in and be able to do that, just great to see. So big kudos to all the guys on Accelerate for showing up big in that match.
All right, and then since I know that Flynn is getting just angry and angrier the more we
Mhm.
talk about stats, we
Mhm.
will go to Dark. We will go to Dark Zero in Space Station, which ended up tying on Clubhouse in the exact same rounds on offensive, defensive, 2 offensive, 4 defensive for both teams respectively. Big outliers here is Mint. Mint went 17-6, and he really showed why Blitz is such a good operator. Because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, Blitz isn't that broken. He's only really broken in ranked games. He doesn't get played in competitive. And then Mint's like, we'll play Blitz, and I'll show you why Blitz is really good. And he did exactly that, as in running straight into church and murdering everyone. So, I mean, great blitz play by him. And I mean, the other great thing that I love to see right here is his most played defensive operator was Caviera. So there you go.
It was a
Great.
stupid game.
That was great. That was great.
I think it was your tweet, wasn't it, Gotcha, that Mint was picking up the mantle from Renton?
From Renton, yeah, the Blitz Cav
the
main.
Blitz Cav man. Jesus Christ.
That's right. Honestly,
Oh.
like objectively looking at the rounds that were given over to DZ, it looked like SSG should have been able to win out that match pretty easily.
Yeah.
I think it should have been, probably a 7-5 scoreline, at least. There definitely seemed to be a round or two there that was more thrown by SSG than DZ like outplaying anybody, especially in that. I remember distinctly that Blitz 1v2.
Yeah.
It was Mint with like 10 HP left. He's literally stuck in a corner, and SSG gave him 2 1v1s. Granted, Mint's a good blitz and all of that, but still, like, how do you lose that? I think that SSG really deserved to win that, but they couldn't clutch out very important rounds, and that cost them big time. So definitely, I mean, you could definitely see that DZ has a particular play style as well, and once you become accustomed to it, they are a countable team. In my opinion, the top 4 teams, us, Rogue, SSG, and DZ, aren't going to change too much. I think they'll continue to be top 4. I think obviously us in first place, Rogue probably second after us, and then DZ and SSG will still battle it out for third and fourth. I don't expect much to change. But I mean, you never know. Reciprocity coming out of left field to perform the way they performed has been really awesome to see. So I'm all for the top 4 getting moved around, just not us, because we're the best.
Gotta love the confidence.
That's fair.
Well, last match again. Gonna try and shoot through the Team Reciprocity versus Rise Nation, and this is finally the match where Skies really got to stretch his legs. 12-3, the scoreline, and more or less just exposing absolutely everything wrong that's currently with Rise. I mean, no one did outstanding at all. The most kills on the team was Vanaling with 6 and 7. Everyone had a negative rating. No one had a positive KD. And it really showed what more of a fluid playstyle can do against Rise and how they are just failing to adapt at every step of the game.
Yeah. If you look at how Reciprocity was attacking, they were just hyper aggressive. And there's a way to counter that, right? But it definitely didn't look like Rise was in the driver's seat at all. It didn't look like Rise knew what to do in that situation. And they basically had no answer for that entire time. And it looked like Rise was playing a little bit scared. Reciprocity is known for a particular play style. They're definitely a little bit more unpredictable. They're definitely a little bit more frag heavy. But you can punish that, and it just didn't look like Rise knew what was going on, and it was way too late before they even started to respond at all. So I don't know. Rise has a lot of things that they need to figure out very, very quickly. Um, have no idea about their coaching situation, and I'm pretty sure they don't have a coach right now.
They
And
don't. I don't believe they
yeah,
do.
No.
yeah, that's a big minus, a
Uh,
huge minus. Just having an outside opinion, an outside objective opinion to offer insight into what you're doing wrong and what you should be doing, and someone who's talented enough and knows about the game enough to be able to do that is such a critical and big thing. And honestly, that's probably what's missing from Rise at the moment. And I'm not sure how much in terms of VOD review that they're doing to fix these mistakes. Like all of that should be put on a coach's shoulders. But when you have nobody stepping up to do that, I mean it's pretty obvious that they're struggling pretty darn hard.
I think this match is really wrapped up in this. I'm gonna quiz you guys a little bit. So this person's most played operators were Capitao and Jaeger. Where did you think they ended up on the leaderboard?
Capitão and Jaeger probably somewhere in the middle, I'd imagine.
That was Beastly, and he went 0-7.
Oh wow.
So that kind
Yeah.
of wraps up the mantra that has been Rise basically this entire Pro League season so far. So, and I honestly do think this is just kind of the fallouts of not having a coach anymore.
Yeah. I think that there definitely is some fallout there. I definitely think they're missing out on some opportunity to receive really good coaching and to help them out because they have more in all these pro league teams. There's more than enough talent to perform at a high level, right? The difference is putting all of that talent to good use and to harness that energy into something that's going to bring out the dub. Right now, Rise really, really needs that. I mean, they have phenomenal players on that team. England, we've seen him play phenomenally and carry the team even on support roles. I mean, not enough good things could be said about Hyper as well as Ghost, Vandal as well, even Beastly. Like they have the talent. They just need to harness it in a better fashion than they're doing right now. And I'm not sure what's happening internally in terms of team dynamics or anything like that, but they got to figure that out very, very quickly because right now they're looking like a bottom pro league team and even in jeopardy of going into relegations if they continue with the trend that they have.
I mean, they've won 6 rounds in 3 games. It's
Wow, is
not
that
a
really the scoreline?
yeah,
Holy moly.
7-4. Their best performance was against Dark Zero. A
Yep.
7-4
Yeah.
loss, then a 7-1, 7-1 back to back to Orglis and Reciprocity. They are
Yeah.
negative 15 right now for round differential.
Yeah. Wow, that's actually worse than I thought in terms of how
Yeah.
many rounds they've won. 6 rounds in 3 games is actually pretty impressive. Like
Yeah.
you'd have to try pretty hard to
I mean,
to lose that many rounds.
that is tremendously bad.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
tremendously
I
bad.
mean, they're not fucking, what were they? Supremacy last season in EU, who were like
Right.
historically bad. I don't think they're there
Right.
yet. We're only 3 weeks in, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting to some meme territory. I don't know. Yeah, that whole game against Reciprocity was a fucking shit show too. I don't know, man. They were so
Well, it was-
invested on their armory defense to play the pulse downstairs and to protect the pulse downstairs, and then all 3 of their anchors on site just died in a minute. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we have a pulse downstairs, a dock covering him in vent, and there's no one on site. All we can do is stop 1 attempted plant. Okay, this is fun. This is a 2v5 every round. Okay, good job. Good job. You protected the pulse, but everyone died. It's just a mess.
Right. Yeah, I mean, once again, adaptation. Like,
Yep.
if you notice, like, hey, they're coming to just destroy site, and we still have 2 people off site, maybe it's time to do something about that and just play more anchor heavy. I don't know. Someone needs to be making that call. Someone has to be stepping up and saying that and making sure that that happens. But it's very evident that nobody is. So I really like all those guys. I got to meet them at USN as well. And I really hope the best for them. They could still definitely turn around the season. It's
Oh, hell
only
yeah.
been 3 games. There's 11 more to go, so plenty of time. Plenty of time.
I remember how C9 started last season. It looked like they were going to get auto-relegated from day one, and then, give it a couple weeks, one roster change at the midway point, and all of a sudden, they start holding their own. They win DreamHack Montreal to qualify to Invitational. I mean, one lucky break here or there, and it can turn around for them, but I think you're right on the money with the lack of a coach being a significant issue. Because it looks like they're running their heads into a fucking wall, making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't bode well.
I hope they realize that really quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I really hope that they do.
They can realize that the 22nd of January for you. Play them on the 21st. Your next game.
Right.
So
yeah. Oh, well, hopefully not too soon.
Yeah. Give it a week, boys, and then, dude, I don't know, call up Shah, see if he'll swap regions for you.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be playing them this upcoming Monday, so
yep.
Should be good. I mean, we're very well prepped for them, and we should have a good showing. And they were one of our scrim partners for a long time. 2 weeks before this match, so we know how they play. They have a good sense of how we play, but we're about to just mix everything up, so they have no idea. Hopefully, they can do the same. Otherwise, it's just the match is just going to go in our favor. Otherwise, so yeah,
it's the first game of the night too on Monday.
I'm excited.
Yep.
Monday. No. 21st is Monday.
Mm-hmm.
First game. Wow, a lot of these games look like blowouts. They all look like blowouts, actually. EG Rise, Rogue Reciprocity, and that could be interesting. And then SSG Orgless. If SSG just picks up their play, that's an easy.
This will be the week that we truly get the test of Reciprocity.
Yeah, against Rogue.
I truly think
it's probably the
especially
key
after
matchup.
this last match, like I definitely know Ranger was not happy with the results of the EG game, to just put it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I definitely see them trying to have a research.
I'm happy that he's upset, because he should be.
Yeah,
well,
I would be.
Honestly, he shouldn't be too upset, because we just are that much better. But it is what it is.
God, I love you. I love you for that. That was solid. That was a solid shot.
It's cute that they can call themselves Team USA, but once we have everyone in NA,
oh,
playing,
you got
we're
fucked with that
NA.
video. You got fucked with that B-roll video. We're the unofficial Team USA. It's time we get crowned that. All right.
Fair enough. But I mean,
next one.
Taking it to
next
the third
USA.
map with them. Yeah. And them possibly winning Clubhouse on a on a free rehost. Come
there
on,
you
man.
go. I wonder how that feels. Free rehost.
Yeah.
Oh, mega lol.
Yep. And almost being beaten by a coach. Come on.
dude, I'm just literally waiting for Gotcha to have like the official ESL handbook printed out in like his front pocket of his jersey. And just anytime anything happens at LAN, he just takes that motherfucker out and just like slams it on the table. It's like, right here in Article 1-4 C17, you're wrong, admin motherfucker. Just like
No. You got to take it.
I'm
You got to take it a step further. You got to get a black T-shirt and take that screenshot that I put on Twitter and get it screen printed as large as possible on the shirt. You just rip off your jersey as soon as they pull some shit. No, look at my chest. Look at my fucking chest. You're wrong.
That's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Might have to consider that going into Invitational.
There you go.
Gotcha. I'm just saying from now on, anytime you're actually coaching and you're behind them, I need you in like a nice button up with like the visor, like every coach wears for some fucking reason in any sport ever. I need you in the visor with the big ass headset on, just like chewing gum with a notepad. That's what I need. That's what I need in my life. If you do that, dude, I will buy you drinks for the rest of the night. I swear to God. Like, on God, that will happen. Like we were at Invitational, and I look down from the crowd and see that. Oh man, it's done. It's over. So, but we are going to start to wrap things up here. But I will say this: we have one more question for you, and we ask. Well, we've only had one guest, but we ask everybody this: what got you into Rainbow Six? What was your main thing? How did you end up getting into this game?
Honestly, it was discovering Rainbow Six Siege through a couple YouTube videos. I think I remember watching Matimio and Macy and Serenity at the time, and them just playing this very unique FPS that's never that has nothing even close to it, right? Like the closest thing to it is maybe CS:GO, and it's nothing even close to this.
No.
And just being able to see how much fun they were having and how much diversity there's in this game and how much complexity, yet at the same time, at its core, also being an FPS was just so fascinating and so amazing to watch that I had to buy the game for myself and started playing and playing and playing and got to where I am now. So huge shout out to all the YouTubers and streamers out there that are making the game look fun, because it really is. And that's honestly what got me into it. I didn't have any real life friends that played this game or anything at all, and all the people I know now have just been from meeting people online, or from making a team with them, or being on a team with them, or playing them in ranked or something of that sort. And so far it's just been an incredible journey, and excited to see what happens next.
For a second there, that got really depressing, but then it picked back up, so we're good. All right. Anyways, like just for like 2 seconds there, I was like, "Oh God, do not come for my heartstrings right now. Like, please don't." But no, we're good. We're good. We're good. And then actually, I'll ask this one more because I always love this question as well. What is the original game from your childhood that got you into video games? Mine personally was Tekken 3 and Crash Bandicoot for the PS1.
Yeah, I have to say N64, probably like Mario Kart. That's what got me gaming in the first place.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Flynn, what was yours?
Really?
I'm asking, yeah.
I've told you about my childhood.
Yeah, I know, but so what was the game that got you into gaming? What was it?
When I could afford my own console, I bought a PS4. I started playing MLB. Then I started playing NHL.
Really, that was your first console, was a PS4?
And I got donated a shitty Xbox 360. It had any game.
I got you. Okay. Okay. All right.
Well, homeless for 3 years. What do you want from me?
I don't know.
You think I got a plasma hooked up outside in the fucking alley under the cardboard box?
No.
I'm busy stealing motherfucking groceries so we can survive. This man's out here like, oh wait, video games that you play. Fucking privileged ass motherfucker.
Oh, shut up, Jesus Christ!
I'm gonna pull that card on I'm gonna pull that card on you every single day.
This is what I deal with, guys. Just in case you guys were wondering, this is outside the podcast too. By the way, this is what I deal with. This is Flynn at all times, at all point in time. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for us here on the B Leaguers podcast. I want to thank you, Gotcha, once again for stopping by and just hanging out with us for an episode. If you ever want to do it again, let us know. It's always a good time. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
No problem, buddy. Any shout outs? What's the Twitter? I believe it's at GotchaR6, isn't it? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's just at GotchaR6. Yeah. I mean, for any fans out there, just appreciate the love and support. It's been an incredible journey so far in Siege in general and esports, and I'm really happy to be where I am and gonna be there without fans supporting as well. But yeah, just bleed blue and go EG.
Well, we thank you for making the matches so interesting and definitely giving us stuff to cast, because otherwise Flynn and I wouldn't, enjoy our careers so far on this either. So that's definitely an awesome thing.
You leech
at
off
B
you.
Leaguers. Yeah, we literally leech off you. You literally give us the content to talk over. So we definitely appreciate you for that. So at B Leaguers, guys, is the new Twitter. If you guys want to drop that a follow, we just got GFX again from Condor or Candor, say his name correctly. Make sure you guys drop that a follow. Hashtag B-Leaguers on Twitter if you guys want to ask us any questions at all for the next podcast, or just at Twitter as well. That's going to be it from us here over on this end. We hope you guys enjoy the Wednesday episode. We'll see you guys later this week. Everyone have a good night.